Welcome to the Art Lady channel. Today's lesson is on the West African black rhino. This animal became extinct in 2006, and in the 60s, Andy Warhol actually created a series of endangered animals, and this was his black rhino. And so at the time, he was only endangered in the 60s. But now we're at almost 2020, we're at 2019, and unfortunately, like I said, in 2006, he became extinct. The last one that was spotted in the Cameroon, Africa. Unfortunately, these species became extinct because of their horns. And they actually have, this subspecies of rhino actually has 2 horns. Let me show you over here. So we're gonna be making the black rhino, and we're going to be doing a watercolor resist with it. To start off, we're going to find the very center of our page, and here is my exact middle right here. So now we're going to put, so if you have your finger in the exact middle, I'm going to go just diagonally next to my finger, and I'm going to go ahead and draw a circle. Now if you start off small, see how I went diagonally to the left, and I started out small. We're going to make it as big as our fingertip now. I'm going to move my finger over and test it, and then you can make it as big as your fingertip because I want this to be a pretty large size eye. So when you put your finger on it, you can see, I can see the whole circle. So that's what you want. You want a good size eye. We're doing an enlarged version of this rhino, just the head with a little bit of the back. So I want the eye to be real important. We want to kind of emphasize the plight of the rhino species, and this is one of the extinct ones. So we're going to kind of make this sad looking eye, and it's actually just what the rhino looks like. So from here, now we're just going to touch the top of that circle, and we're going to just go down a little bit. This is a slight diagonal line, just go down, not very far. And on this side, I'm just going to go over straight. We're going to give some type of an eye lid. I'm going to just come over a little bit more. I want to come over wider than this area. I'm going to come around the eye now. I'm going to touch the bottom of the circle, and I'm going to go up and just touch the edge of that line. And I'm going to do the same on this side, bottom of the circle, and just come up. This almost forms kind of a half circle. Now the lid, so this is going to be his eyelid, and I'm going to slightly curve up on this side. And if you imagine this, and I'm going to use just the tip of my pen here and try and get a skinnier line than what I've drawn, but this is going to be the top lid. So we've just formed the line of the lid. So now I'm just going to come up real small and curve a rainbow arch from side to side. And that's the actual eyelid, just like you have an eyelid that covers part of that eyeball. So that's what I've just formed right there, flesh of the skin. Now I'm going to just do we're going to do these detail lines right here underneath the eye. And so I'm just almost sketchy lines. So I'm going to come from this side down and around. And I haven't put a lot of pressure on my pen, so I have a thinner line. And this is like wrinkles that are coming around its eye. I'm going to do the same, keep it kind of close, come down and around. If we come from the center of the eye now, and we're going to give limits to the top of its head. So I'm going to take my hand, and I'm going to come down, I'll measure on this side, 3 fingers. Now, line it up from the top of the eyeball right up to the top of the page. Place your fingers, see how they're horizontal, and then I'm just going to put just a dot, and then I'll move my hand away. So it's exactly lined up to the eyeball. That's important. I'm going to just do a horizontal line. It's going to be wider than my finger. See how it's slightly wider than the width of your finger. And don't measure near your fingertip, because that's going to be thinner. Just make sure. And it's approximately 1 inch. From here, I'm going to come down slightly. And see, I'm following, kind of following the curve here. So I'm coming down. At that top line here, where we did the inch, I'm going to go diagonally up toward the edge of this page, but look, don't touch the top. You always want to give a little space where your picture ends before it, unless you're going to have the whole composition go off the page. Now I'm going to curve around, just curve this round and down. This is going to form his ear that's on the other side of his head. We're doing a profile, so we only see half. We only see the side of his eye and then half of this. Now I'm just going to come down diagonal and curve it right to the edge. This is the inside here of his ear, so it's a kind of an interesting perspective. Now the front of the ear, I'm just going to come over slightly a little bit more. So this line lines up. If you take the end of your eye, I'm coming up straight. So the end of the eye, come up straight. You want this line to just match up to that. We're going to do the same ear shape, but it's going to come down in here. Let me show you. It's going to be diagonally above the eye. So this is the same perspective shape, but we see the whole ear, not just the tip behind its head. So to do this, get up here so I can see it. To do this, I'm going to just put a line right here to start me. And this, we're going to do the curve first. So I'm going to curve around. So I'm curving up and over. I'm going to spin this around here and come straight down. So I've just kind of slightly curved. I'm going to do my diagonal here, coming down. And then I'm going to do a kind of a U curve here. I'm going to match this, just curve it down so it has a nice little shape on the inside. And then this will be, you can just add a line in here. So this is the inside of the ear here. You want to give a few little flecks for hair. Sometimes they have little hairs coming in there. So now we have that nice shape. Let's go to the back before we get to the head part here. If you imagine this is the head coming across, don't draw on top of the ear, we're going behind. I'm just going to come diagonally out, horizontally rather, sorry. Then I'm going to swoop down and around. This is going to be a wrinkle. Ooh, mine was a little bit too high. I kind of flicked it, but just down to about here. I'm just ignoring this as a mistake. Then I'm going to go from this wrinkle, I'm coming diagonally. It's horizontal over with a slight diagonal up. So horizontal over, kind of poking up or pointing up. And then this is the wrinkle as well. Here we've just formed these little back wrinkles. And then we're just going to come toward the edge of the page up. And this is just the rest of his back. And this is going to be a huge rhino, so he goes right off our page. And your wrinkles, these wrinkles are okay. It doesn't matter if you put them closer together, farther apart. Each one has different wrinkles. As his head moves, it forms different creases in his body. Now we're going to come from this side, and here we're going to go down and slightly up. So I'm coming diagonally down with a little hook up. And I'm going to slide this over here so it's a little bit easier for me to reach. I have some stuff that's not flat here. From here, we're going to go diagonally down, but we're going to dip down. And I'm going to dip down about 1.5 inches. If you can see how many, I'm going to come diagonally down right to my finger, and that's wider than 2 fingers. A little bit wider than 2 fingers, so diagonally down, wider than 2 fingers. So I'm going to show you how I dip. Watch me first. I'm just going to dip down and up. This is going to form the area for the larger horn. And this is why this West African black rhino is extinct now. It's because of these horns. Okay, so now we're going to curve this. We're going to come diagonally diagonally up toward the top of the page, and I'm just going to leave a little space here because this is going to be the larger of the two horns. So diagonally up, straight, doesn't have to be perfectly straight. I'm going to just slightly curve this, not much now, and then come right back down. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to come down about 2 fingers diagonally down. So this is all going to form almost a straight line here. So diagonally down, 2 fingers at least. This is the second horn. So I'm going to come now, dip, down and around, down and up. Dip. Now this one is curved. So we're going to give it a nice curve. So from the inside area here, I'm coming, and it's shorter though. So watch me first. I'm going to come out and around. Now I don't have it touch this horn. So this comes, curves, and then I'll show you how I come back around. So this is the smaller horn in the front. It still is thick. And now we're going to come, this is going to be quite a large, almost C-shaped curve. It's going to be at least, so if I take this, come down 4 fingers. So I measure my fingers here, line it up to the bottom, give a mark. This is going to be part of its snout, so it's going to come around almost C-shape. Don't make it too skinny now. Watch how I'm going to do this. I'm going to come out almost like I'm making a C. Swing it around. If you swing it down diagonally too much, it's going to be too narrow. This is a lot of kind of thick flesh here from the rhino's nose or snout. Now in between here, I'm going to jump up probably only about a finger, put a dot, and I'm going to start forming the opening of his nose, and it's going to come up and around. So I start it going up almost C-shape and around, and then it's going to leave a point and then come down and around. So if you make the U here and then a point over and then fill it in, just fill it in nice. So just fill this in, and you can always fill this in later too. And I'd wait till later because I'm going to move on now, so we're not holding up anybody. If you come to this side, now I'm only about halfway, I'm giving like a wrinkle here. So I'm going to jump over about a half a finger space, and I'm just following this curve. So I follow the roundness of the top nostril, and then I kind of swoop down almost like a slide. Now we're going to come across slightly diagonal up, but I don't want to touch this. I'm going to slightly curve and then come back up. So I've come over diagonal, came across a bit horizontal, and then I slightly curved it up. This is forming kind of the mouth area. Here, if you take the nostril, go diagonally down. I want a little bit of an overhang here. I'm going to come diagonally down, and I'm slightly curving it here. Curving, and then I'm going to come right back down. It's almost like if you put your hand here. I'm going to curve right back down and a slight diagonal. So now that would form the head. So let's go over that again here. So it's a diagonal down, curve this, then we're coming over here. I'm almost keeping this parallel, if you look here. And I've curved around, say, my hand, and this is a diagonal. You don't want to come down fully straight. And we've just formed everything. Slide this over. Now, here's a couple more wrinkles here. So come up, give a curve, and a little wrinkle here. I'll extend mine longer here. And there you have it. Now, to paint this in, I'm going to show you real quick how I did this. I did a watercolor, actually, we used tempera because we have tempera on our tables today. A wash, just a light wash of color. And then I used a lot of water with it. What I did to do the watercolor wash, and I picked a gray, so I used a black. You can choose really any family of color you'd like. That's up to you in my class. So I'm going to show you for the black what I did. To do the wash, and it's almost like you're treating this as a watercolor, I take my brush and I load it up with water, and then I've touched the black, and I place the black line on this edge, because this I want to be a shadow here, and then immediately I wash my brush completely, and I use just water, and I pull this, so I'm treating it just like a watercolor paint, and I'm pulling my edges just so it blends out. That way it creates a little shadow of dark here, and then just pure water here. That's how I get a light gray tint of black, a light gray. And now I'm adding just water here. So if you even start with just water, watch, I'm just gonna put water down, okay? Let me do it over here so you can see it a little bit better. I'm adding just water first. Then, if you take your black color, or say you want dark blue, or you want a purple Rhino, in this area, this is gonna be the edge, and then this is the shadow area. So I come down, then I completely wash my brush, and I just take the edge and pull it in. And it's gonna do a gradation of color, just the water, and it's gonna end up being a light gray, going from dark, I'll move it over here, going from dark to pure water, to light, like so. And that's how I finished it. So now look, it looks like this is the lighter gray color, and his wrinkle, can you visualize now the 3D of how the wrinkle comes around, and then it makes it darker right here, behind the wrinkles darker. So you can take your color and add a little bit of darker to this if you want, and then just pull it out. That's how I do it. And then over in here, let me show you on his eye. Let's move the eye over a little bit so you can see that better. I'm gonna make it, blow it up a little. So I would do the same thing. Take your water, and I'm gonna put the darker color on this line, the wrinkle, darker color on this, wash my brush, and I'm pulling most of the water off, and just on the edge, I'm blending out this. And I'm adding, look, just pure water, which is this dirty kind of water now. And it forms, it kind of bleeds into the paper when you touch the edge. Because then we're over here, you want it to be lighter. And so it's gonna end up being a light gray. And if you're at home doing this and you have watercolor paints, that's fine too, just use your watercolor paints. So I'm gonna make, the eyelid's gonna be lighter, but behind the eyelid, it's gonna be darker. So now I'm gonna take my water, pure water, and blend it out. And then just blend all this in as a neutral gray background. Now, if you wanna have fun with adding color, maybe you wanna add a hint of blue to it. So you can, because oftentimes in black, there's blue as shadow. Come back and add a layer of the blue to the really darkest areas, and then wash that out with water. So I'm layering my color. And we can do that with these temper cakes. So it's now a nice light value of color. Okay? And I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. A finished one that I did, and I did a hint of green to this because actually the water that I was using had a green tinge to it. So it ended up coming out like a greenish black. Okay? Here are a few examples from my students, and they did some nice watercolor washes in the background as well. So I hope you enjoy the video, and if you do, make sure you give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe.